Today we are diving back into Clan Capital and I will be showing you all the bases with links down below in the description. So let's dive in and see these bases. Here we are on the first base and we do have the Goblin Mines. Now guys, I'm going to be showing some replays and also some talk through because some of the bases I'm about to show you, I've designed it in around the same time as the raid weekend started. So we haven't activated them yet. Some of them are activated and some of them aren't, so that's why we can see replays. But we got the super miners. Now generally what I design in Clan Capital is against super miners. That's what I kind of put in my mind. But as you can see, we got separated, really separated of those major defenses. So these defenses can cover every side and every bit of this Goblin Mine, meaning they cannot really go down to one frost spell on both of these major defenses. And also there is going to be different entry points which are really hardcore. As you can see, 9 miners just didn't get into our first major defense. This is how crushing these bases can get into when talking about super miners. Now some players do switch up middle of the attacks, as you can see, with golems, super wizards, or something like the graveyard spell, frost spell, healing spell. So they switch around. It's Clan Capital. You don't exactly know what's gonna happen and who's gonna attack you with what, but the majority of the players do attack with the super miners, and some of them aren't really as hardcore to go in with really strategic approaches. That's why I bait the main entrances. So let's put this on multiple by 2, and as you can see, that graveyard spell, there was 4 and they didn't do much. It's because of the mortar, it's because of this spear thrower and kind of goblin spear thrower, but in general that's how you can see like every aspect of this base is kind of defendable in any kind of approach. Now one thing I always do on my bases is put one splash damage defense or a bomb tower, for example in this case, around the major defenses so they can have that splash damage when there is a graveyard on top of them. Something to really keep in mind when doing base building, you don't really want to put all the splash in one side and all the single damage in another side. It's just gonna be not as good, and we're gonna put this on 4 times and go to the next attack. And some of the bases I'll be talking maybe around 1 minute, so this video doesn't get too long. Let's put this on 4 times, going with the graveyard spell and kind of spamming into the ground army. You can see already when the bases get into triple hit, that is a good base because it did defend the attacker 3 times, and this is the last base on our map. The Goblin Mines, it's literally the last one. It's not even fully maxed because we haven't received any updates, but as you can see, this is even going to get into 4 hits just because the golems are slow. So if you're choosing miners, then you got the spear throwers coming right and left up to you, just like the first hit we saw on this attack. So looking at this golem, I don't know if we can really finish this base off, and yeah, as you can see, it's time fill, but the golem would have died anyway, so this attack will go into 4th. Let's move on to our next district. Alright, here we are on the Skeleton Park, one of my favorite districts to design, and as you can see, we got 2 hardcore entrances. Yes, this is why it's one of my favorite designs, because you only have 2 entrances and they're pretty much covered by this narrowed down path, which means you can have major defenses on another side of it to be able to target. And as you can see here, we do have the same, and one very long range defense to cover both sides in case something goes around. And at the same time, as I told you, we do have the splash damage for the graveyard, and I do have an air defense for rocket loons. Take a look at this one. We do have air defense, air bomb, and air traps for rocket loons if they want to drop it on this angle, or even hogs. We do have this kind of spear thrower and the rocket artillery covering that minion hive. So simple as that. You can see how I'm already covering things up. And then we got, of course, the main party right here, the reflectors, multiple by those multi cannons, and the mega Tesla splash damage with these log traps. These damage inputs is absolutely crazy against any ground attack. Now this could be golems, giants, P.E.K.K.A.s and super miners. At the same time, we do have a bit of separation with the air defenses, and they're a bit deeper, as you can see, for those air attacks. So they are close and deep, so we can kind of cover everything and all the ground possible. Simple as that. That is basically our whole idea of this base. Let's move on to the next district. Now on the Golem Quarry, you're gonna see me building another type of base, right? This is a lot more compact than what you've seen on the last ones, and I've told you to put kind of the major defenses a bit separated, and this is exactly the same, but we do have the same coverage of the entire field without any kind of place to be noticed and kind of left out, right? So we do have the rocket artilleries and those blast balls covering all each other. The frost spell will not be able to be dropped on both of them, and when you have a compact base with a lot of heavy splash damage defenses, this is super miners' weakness, because they keep going down, and then because of one really close by defense, they keep coming up, and this means they keep getting involved and basically exposed to all the other defenses. And we do have so many point defenses that together they can take down the miners super quickly. I do have crushers on both of the entrances. We do have also some zap traps for those rams or even miners, doesn't matter that much, but then air defenses covering every single aspect of this base, and they're pretty far and further away from each other, so you can tell that if someone goes with air attack, it's going to be harder to reach every single one of these air defenses, and they aren't as close as these rapid rockets. You don't really want to put these too far like against these air defenses, because they are kind of covering a lot smaller area, so by the time things get to this rapid rocket at the end of the attack, it's going to be too late. It's not going to be enough. So that's why rapid rockets always will be in front row, or at least kind of the middle of the base, but then the air defenses on the backside. And I would recommend the air bombs in areas where they can cover few of the major defenses. So simple as that. We're gonna move on to our next district. Here we are on the Dragon Cliffs. Yes, this is also one of my favorite designs to make, with the way that we can actually give three kind of access to three different parts of the base, and every axis, as you can see, an entrance, we do have a dragon post. These dragon posts, if they want to go under the frost spell kind of distraction or frost spell in general, they are going to be hardcore defenses against them at the end of their way. So at the same time, you can see we got air defenses right at the end, kind of protected by the major defenses, and of course those dragon posts, as you can see. So getting to the air defenses is literally one of the most impossible things to do easily. So you can see this is going to be the first attack, 20% on a dragon cliff. Let's move on to the next one, and they do have kind of similar army, and this is another strategic approach. I didn't want to just show you super miners and golems. There have been other attacks on this base, and it never goes down to 2 hits. If you're a really good player, if you're a really pro player and hardcore player, you may be able to get this base down in 2 attacks, but I've personally not seen that happen in the Legends League of the Clan Capital that currently we are. So it's just crazy, it's insane. But you can see dropping these archers to trying to kill these dragons, but we do have a lot of point defenses to kill them one by one, and again nice single infernos with splash damage defenses right next to them, meaning for the graveyard spell it's gonna be harder. 9% on the second attack, kind of crazy. But now they're going with double of these flying fortresses just to speed things up and get through these dragon posts. But as you can see, without frostspell it's not possible, and with frostspell they won't have those rages to be able to get through the defenses as quicker. So you can see how already these bases are defending with multiple strategies, and I will show you next up with, of course, the golem and the P.E.K.K.A. This is going to be a switch up because they saw, okay, we got 3, maybe even 4 super dragons that we cannot really be able to take down. So let's go on ground, let's skip the dragons without actually just wasting too much more time. We got the rage spell, and let's see if the P.E.K.K.A.s, yeah, the P.E.K.K.A. also is still there, and you can see how this P.E.K.K.A is getting lured to this really useless part of the base, just enough for the single Inferno to fully lock on, and that is the distraction that I've put here, just for defenses to get lured away from the main core. And then we got the capital, got the district hall in the middle in front of two single Infernos, just to be able to keep the troops right there so we can absolutely crush them with the single Infernos. Another hit, another defense. We have again the golems going in. I think this guy could have picked maybe a zap spell, you know, instead of just 2 rages, but this clan apparently didn't have fully maxed things anyway, so it's still fine. But can we see if this base gets wrecked? I think no, because yeah, we don't have the time. Same thing that happened on that first attacks, they don't have time, so you can just go with golem. And yeah, this is gonna take another hit to finish off. But let's move on to our next district, which is also anti-super miner. Hold on a second and let's look at this base first before we dive into the attack. We got another strategy, as you can see, and honestly, this base, you can already tell why I called it the anti-super miner. We got the major defenses quite far from each other. No kind of frostbolt can freeze both of them, same as this side. Really heavy hardcore entrances on every side of the base, and once you open the link, you're gonna see the traps, because it's absolutely crazy on every side of these entrances. But let's see how and what happens in this attack. Healing spell, and yup, you can see the damage. These giants are getting cooked left and right. If you don't go with a frost spell on these major defenses, they're gonna be cooking you, yeah, because there's no way to get through this much damage without a free spell. Even a rage wouldn't give you enough time to get through it. So this is one of those strategies as people might use. The giant wizard, something that was always around, but as you can see, it was against super miners. This guy just took out 1 building, guys. That means a lot. Same way goes with the super miners and also any other ground attacks like the golem, because the damage is insane. And once they get through it, these bases are where then it gets weaker, because let's say they got through this and they're here, so now they're going at the behind of the defenses. But don't worry, because they still need to get through here. That means the damage will still be there. They still need to get through all these damage to reach here. So every part of this base, doesn't matter where you go with the attack, it's gonna have a lot of damage. So let's put this on 4 times and get through these attacks and see, because this player got this base down in 4 hits. That is a lot in around Titan 1 and Legends League bases for the clan capital. So trust the process, trust the bases, run them, and we will also keep renewing the links, because now I can actually save these links from kind of like our clan here, and I can just give them later back to Hooked or someone to put them back here in the description. So if you're around 2 weeks, or I would say maybe 3 weeks late on this video, the links may have not be working. So make sure you comment down below if the links aren't working, so we can renew them and make sure everything is fine and sweet. So this attacker going with golem, and as you can see, that graveyard spell will give him absolutely 0 value, because there is also splash damage defenses around it. The golem is just there to make a huge distraction, and I wish they would have used another troop with the golem, but it is what it is. You can see how hardcore they are without even going through those back end traps. Let's put this on 4 times. 3 graveyard spell. Honestly, I think if you just drop them, yeah, if you just drop them on the same top side, they would go down. But we do have air defenses and of course other major defenses to kill these dragons super quickly. And look at the rapid rocket frying those air skellies. That's why you want to have them right next to the major defenses. Sometimes it may not be enough to take care of the air things with just 1 air defense, as the other major defense went down. But here we are with 4 attacks on our builder's workshop. Let's move on to Balloon Lagoon. So the Balloon Lagoon is one of those weakest districts, guys, and that's because it doesn't have as much splash damage and as much hardcore really good defenses, right? And it's always right next to Wizard Valley. But what I try to do is to put everything quite separated again and make a pathway for the miners. You can see early heavy damage, same way as here. And if they want to go from all the way through this space to go from here, that is gonna just take them so much time, and also more defenses to get through, just to be able to get through these 2 rocket artillery. So every aspect of this base will have the same amount of damage. Air defenses really nicely separated and covering majority of the base, and the places that the air defenses aren't covering, we got air bombs to cover for them, and of course the rapid rockets. So the air is also down and sweet, and as you can see, we do have a lot of double tile walls between, of course, the defenses, the major ones, and the walls itself, because this is where the super wizards and the sneaky archers cannot reach your defenses. So you want to have those major defenses further away from the wall, so you can kind of take them down and at least make sure the attacker use a ram, or kind of batter ram, that's what I mean. But yeah, or the jump spell basically. But yeah, now we do have that whole district hall again in front of heavy damage, just so if the attacker comes from this angle or this angle, they have to go through 2 rocket artilleries while taking down the district hall, which has a lot of HP. Simple as that. This is basically all it comes down basically to the Balloon Lagoon. We can move on to the next district. Here we are on the Wizard Valley, and we do have, you can see again, the separation of the major defenses, and this attacker going in with Graveyard, Healing Spell, and the Super Miner. Now, as I said, the Wizard Valley is automatically so much less hardcore than the other districts because of the way it doesn't have as much major defenses or as much splash damage defenses, but I still did my best to build a base that is kind of a bit more weirder than the other ones. We do have a core ricochet cannons, and not ricochet cannons, sorry, the giant cannons, so it's harder to reach. At the same time, we do have entrances covered with those cannon carts. This means the attacker will have to go through them either way, so if you're coming from an entrance or if you're going from the end of the attack. Now, they're going in with the graveyard spell, so if the miners die, there's going to be a lot of skellies, but as you can see, we do have wizard towers right next to the major defenses again for that graveyard spell. So in case of the drop, the wizard tower will be there, and the Mega Tesla with the point damage. So you can see there is absolutely no damage on the ricochet cannon. First attack, this base is getting kind of wrecked, but yeah, I mean, what else did you expect from a Wizard Valley, right? But we still got a few major defenses to go through, and this is what you want to have. That entire row will not go down to 1 attack. It's just not gonna go down to 1 attack with any army and any spell. You're gonna see why. Let's put it on double time and let's see where this attacker starts with the super miners. So going from the top side, okay, some nice, tanks. I think he wanted some skellies in the graveyard, but I don't think it's gonna work that well. The single inferno will go down, doesn't have as much chance to killing the super miners, but now the ricochet cannon, or sorry again, the giant cannon is what making the difference. You can see how that cannon card tanks enough time for these miners to get through that ricochet cannon. So let's just see how far they can go. I think maybe it's gonna come down to time, but you can see how one by one, because of the point defenses, they are going down, and the Mega Tesla is a big help in this district. With those point defenses together, they can shine really good, and you can see, yup, this is going to be a defense and not a time fill. But in general, this is what you want to have the Wizard Valley, right? You don't want to have too much separation, and you don't want to be too much compact. Something in the middle, something that can keep the miners kind of dying everywhere they go. But yeah, let's move on to the Barbarian Camp. Now, the Barbarian Camp is one of those very heavy damage kind of bases, right? And usually it gets tripled in 3 or 4 or even 5 if you have a good base. And this one that I designed is a lot hardcore than the last one that I've brought on your, I think maybe it was around 6 or 7 months ago when we did the last, Clan Capital video. But this is kind of renewed version because that base still does absolutely crazy, and this one is just a more overpowered version. So let's see why is that. You can see we got the giants right in front of super heavy kind of compartments, right? And this just keeps the miners in front of these multi cannons, the Mega Teslas, and the rocket artilleries on any side of this base. So this heavy damage is combined with all those splash that is coming from the mortars for those graveyard spell, or even if the miners are still above the ground, the mortars does very heavy damage to them. Imagine 3 mortars just dropping on them. And then after all that, we do have these 2 giant cannons at the very end that they cannot go down on one frost spell, so they will be doing absolutely magic on the back end with the bomb towers to protect them from the graveyard spell, and also with the air defenses protecting them from the super dragons or the flying fortress. Something that I've considered on this base, you can see how every air defense is covering every aspect of this base, and we do have very deep of these air bombs to be able to cover as much as the base possible in a triangle way. So you can see any entrance from either the side will go down to 2 of these bomb towers, same, and then you got 1 entrance from this one, which is the most obvious entrance, and the most damage is from this lower side. So people might think with the air there might be easier, but no, it's gonna be even harder to go through the middle from the air attacks. But the Barbarian Camp usually is just automatically gives you so much defense, so just making a very compact base give you chances of bigger defense, so it can help you out in your kind of average defenses on every single kind of raid. And I would suggest to build something like this and put everything together compact, but not too compact for the frost spell and the rage spell. Keep those in mind. We got the giant bombs, and the small bombs for also some of those super miners and hogs, which are getting used a lot. But that's basically it. We can move on to the last district and the final one, which is the capital peak. Now this might be by far my best capital peak design, and you might be saying, whoa, hold on, how is this even possible? So let me show you what my thought process was when I was designing this. Now you can see the entrance is super covered by walls already and heavy damage. We got these kind of the giant cannons on the sides, and then we got the main whole idea of this capital peak right in the core, somewhere that it can cover a lot of major defenses. Just look at the coverage. These miners, if they want to go around all the time, they will be rained down on them from the capital hall, same way as this side. And also if they want to dive into the capital peak, we have these 2 kind of crushers, and of course the major defenses on 3 sides. It's important, every side you think and see, there's 3 major defenses. Let's say if the miners go in, there's gonna be 3 major defenses on them. He can already frost 2 only. This means 1 major defense will be free and raining down on the miners, and that means if it's gonna be capital hall, they are in big trouble. If it's gonna be this too early on, that is when the capital hall is gonna be kind of alive. But if they want to freeze the capital hall and the giant cannon, the blast ball coverage is absolutely insane, covering even the single inferno, as you can see. So if the miners path to there, it's still gonna be able to cover them, same way as if the miners path from the capital hall to this rocket artillery. It's just insane how everything covers each other, same way as the graveyard spell. If this giant cannon gets on their graveyard, if this capital peak, if even this rocket artillery, this blast ball can cover them. Even if the back end rocket artillery gets graveyard spell, 2 of these blast balls can cover it. So you can already tell what I was thinking from this whole idea of this type of base. And then look at the mortars, covering everything through the middle and super tough to reach because there is heavy and high HP defenses and buildings in front of them. Now with the traps, I always design them for miners and hogs and sneaky archers, but usually you can see how the bombs are in between the defenses around the miner pathing. That is when then you're gonna have absolutely insane results, because you can keep raining down on those miners HP. And in general, that's basically it about the capital peak. The single inferno ideas on the very far back end is for the golems. When they come in, it's like, hold on, this golem is gonna just go inside the base, let me take the pen, and then around this area, then it's gonna get fried because it has so many defenses to get through to get to the single inferno. Same way as the golem decides to go this way. Something really interesting that this base has is like, it doesn't give you exact pathing. It's gonna separate your army sometimes. going like 3 different ways again, or 2 different ways, meaning your army will be weaker and weaker the more it gets deeper into the base. So something to take note of is that these bases are just kind of defending what is basically getting used a lot. If they want to use Golem, they may get a lot of percentage on the first attack, maybe Flying Fortress still, but then we do have very kind of hard to reach air defenses, as you can see, but they do cover the very entrance of this base, as you can see, around the area where the Flying Fortress or the Super Dragons will be there to attack the defenses that you have on the pitch. So the air defenses can cover up really nicely, and the early of these posts, the Giant Post and the Super Dragon Post, is forcing the attacker to drop the Frostbolt really early on, meaning either one of these two will be free. And this idea of these 3 together, the defenses like Crushers and Capital Hall, and of course the Rocket Artillery, kind of scares the attacker sometimes. So they always go with that Frostbolt on them, because if you don't, it's gonna be a very kind of annoying attack to do on this capital peak. But hopefully you guys liked this whole entire capital based designs and enjoy them while you can, you know, in this raid weekend. And hopefully in future I'll bring you guys another video for the clan capital in Blueprint channel, but let us know whenever the links get expired so we can kind of renew them. But hopefully again you guys enjoyed this and get some good defenses in your kind of upcoming, or maybe right now live raid weekend. See you soon, take care and peace.